Welcome, brand newters. I hope you are well. Excuse my background, it's just the environment that I'm in. I would like to just add a little innovative touch. Brings me to the topic of the day, innovation during a crisis. When we think of innovation, there's so many ideas, especially now during such a difficult time. I believe it's the best moment to consider new ideas, the best moment to become inspired, and the best moment to try some new things that you have always had on your mind, on your intention. What is innovation? Peter Drucker said, innovation is a specific instrument of entrepreneurship, the act that endows resources with a new capacity to create wealth. Peter Drucker, the father of leadership, and so he really gave us some things to think about here. He mentioned entrepreneurship, he mentioned value. I think that a more simplified definition follows by Joe Dwyer. Innovation is the process of creating value by applying novel solutions to meaningful problems. Innovation is a process indeed, creating value. What value in whose mind? And innovation, what we're considering here is the creation of some product or service or process or organizational change or marketing innovation. I'm truly looking at innovation here from the perspective of an organization, of which I'm sure everyone is a part of. Even as an entrepreneur, as Peter Drucker has suggested, you need to be hand in hand with innovation, with invention, but not just meaningless invention. The creation of, again, a product or a service or a process that brings value. So here we see a little diagram, and I would like to go more into the different sections. So on the top circle, we have value. On the left circle, we have novel, and on the right circle, we have solution. Solution meaning just some solution to some problem. Value meaning something that has a monetary value to a customer. Novel meaning it's something trendy or it's something that is creatively sound. If we combine these different circles, we will see different kind of innovation. There's innovation of the organization. You can see where you create value and it provides a solution. Where you have a novel and a solution, you have a invention. And where you have value and novel idea, you have art. So in this way, I want you guys to really reflect on these definitions of innovation as we move forward and how it really sits in to an organization, whether that organization is of one, which is what an entrepreneur is, or is it of thousands. We need to consider innovation. What not is innovation? You might look at this question and say, oh my, his grammar, his English is wrong. But it brings to mind the idea of what innovation is not. It is not just merely having an invention. It is going beyond such. There are many people, business model, processes, and other tasks involved in an innovative process. However, these innovative thinking and design methodology may lead to inventions that may not necessarily correlate to innovations. What do I mean? I mean, think about an innovation of an entrepreneur who is now creating a system to cut grass better? Is he merely using a grass cutter or or even using a scissors in the sense? Is it just the act of using a scissors to cut grass an innovation? That is an invention. Innovation comes in when that value can be replicated and sustained over time. It is not just a mere change. What we can see also in this thinking, if you already have, for example, a phone company like Apple has a existing phone and has only changed it on a small level. For example, when they came out with the iPhone 10 or iPhone X, then they had the X Max. The X Max wasn't necessarily an innovation, full innovation per se, as it built and it used the same requirements it used the same requirements and resources of the X, but merely provided few improvements, such as improvement in processor and RAM and such forth. I personally don't use iPhone, so I won't be able to, forgive me if I get that information wrong, but I have a Samsung and I have the Samsung 20 series. And what I noticed, they merely changed the storage capacity as well as the size of the screen. And they also added more RAM and they made it a little faster, I would say, from having those features. They also made small changes to the camera. And I would not say those were significant changes that would qualify as an innovation. So thinking about this as an entrepreneur, we don't want just to invent. We want to create a proper innovative product that we can bring to the market or bring to our customers that can offer them value. When thinking about innovation though, we need to iterate or go through many phases of invention. For example, there's version 1, version 2, version X, continued to infinity. However, when we initially create the first version, it may not be as polished. And how much so does that first version qualify as an innovation? Therefore, by the time we get to market, we probably would have been on the 4th or 5th version of the innovation. However, there is some thinking that I will discuss later about lean methodology that encourages us to actually release the broken model early to market so that we can use the customers for feedback. I will speak on that a little later. So just to clarify again, invention does not necessarily equal innovation. Invention, though, is the process through which innovations are created. The new normal, life in the pandemic. I just wanted to bring everything now relevant to where we are in the world and show how innovation and thinking is really helping us during the pandemic. Now that things have changed, for example, the use of Zoom, which we are using now, we're meeting all across the world and the 7 seas to discuss these topics in a great platform that allows us to share screen, share presentation, share beautiful backgrounds, and to speak with each other as if we were in the same room. I do not think that that was possible or was necessary outside of the pandemic, where now there are alpha, beta, and further versions of the virus. So in that way, I'm also thinking that the virus is also innovating to survive. So if you think about it in that light, innovation comes from the need for survival and then becomes a prosperous thing for us. For example, Zoom. So one of the other examples is now global remote work, such as platforms like Upwork and so forth. This allows us to have and projects that work across different and their requirements with each other, we can all work now from our homes. I have a friend that was working with a big company in New York, a design company, and they closed their whole New York office. So now they advise him that he can work anywhere in the world as long as he gets the job done, as long as he closes his tickets and he delivers on the expectation. So just think about global work. We can be in Guyana and we can do work from any part of the world as long as we have the skills and the abilities. That's something that I believe that innovation during the pandemic has really been that innovation during this pandemic has really been a great innovation for us. Another example of innovation at its best is artificial intelligence deep fake. Deep fake is where you can take multiple pictures of a person and extract their faces, and then you can take that face and put it on your body. And then as you speak, the face changes to look like it's the original person. If you are on Instagram or on TikTok and these things, you will be able to see Tom Cruise, deep fake, in where a person who was already looking very similar to Tom Cruise created this fake account. He called it Tom Cruise, deep fake, and he ran for president. He shot different weird movie scenes of him, like, I will be your president and I will protect you, with guns and everything. But this time it was using the deep fake. So he was actually an actor. So it's pretty crazy technology, the deep fake, where someone can just pretend to be you in some video of some sort. I believe it was used in the Indian political campaign, in where the prime minister was able to deepfake himself so that he could translate and speak multiple languages, saying the same message. So in that way, it helped him to create one video and then use the deepfake to do voiceovers and translations to the other languages. So if you really think about this deepfake, it can be very useful, but it also can be very bad. It can be disruptive, because if someone can acquire the deepfake files of the prime minister, they can create all kind of crazy things that he's doing and basically attack his political career, and then they can hold him at ransom or some innovation. It's just it. And think about security after. Pfizer vaccine. All the different vaccines that have now emerged in the world are all innovations. From what I understood, it took them 5 to 10 years to create a proper vaccine that would have fight this kind of disease before the pandemic. But when the effect or the impact where all these persons were affected across the world, it really pushed the importance of innovation in the vaccine. Not only in the vaccine, but also in the process of giving vaccinations. For example, now we could have drive-through vaccine and all these fancy, different processes that were changed. So if you think about this, again, this brings me to the topic I'll be speaking about later. Do not think only of an innovation as a product or service, but it can also be a process within your organization. Now on to the next topic, the types of innovation. Innovation can be categorized in many, many different ways, but for the interest of time and for engagement in this presentation, I've chosen to speak about 4 types: product innovation, marketing innovation, process innovation, organization innovation. Big words. Basically, innovation speaks about creating a new product or service for your that your company or that your offering is given. So for as I spoke about, our product innovation is in the way he delivers that service. For example, he might now improve it in the sense like he can cut grass, but now he's also doing landscaping. So in that way, he is offering more services to his customers. So really think about what more value again that you can offer to your customers. What more can you do for them to help them to do what they need to do? In other words, what are their problems and how are you solving it? Marketing innovation. Marketing innovation talks about expanding your marketing reach and marketing plan of your organization in the sense that if you were never like one marketing innovation, you never use film or you never shot a video or you never went on social media for years, you only advertise in the newspapers. Now that you've expanded in your customer base, you might want to reach out to social media. Specifically, you might want to reach out using TikTok videos. So a marketing innovation is the use of TikTok videos where you yourself would record yourself doing these videos and advertising your products. I know TikTok allows you to do voiceovers and sing-alongs, and you can do those sing-alongs while advertising your product. That is one example of doing marketing innovation. Another example here is, again, reaching out to different media. For example, as I spoke about TikTok already, there's also Instagram. Another type of innovation is process innovation. Process innovation is where you improve the procedures and operations of your organization. This can be done using ISO standards, or it can just be significant changes in the way that your organization runs. For example, one process innovation that I would recommend for all entrepreneurs is the use of an appointment and their job, and you schedule them. There are a lot of automation tools out there that you can use to improve your Calendly. Calendly is one of those examples of allow persons to see your available time slots and book an appointment either for work or for a project, or just for an initial consultation. So that is a process innovation that's very useful for entrepreneurs. And the last type of innovation I would like to speak about is organizational innovation. Organizational innovation is where there is a significant change in your organization, that you've come up with a completely new methodology of doing the work. This was seen through the Toyota company, where they created lean marketing, lean methodology, sorry. The lean methodology at Toyota was where they basically would seek out any way to improve their operations, and they would allow suggestions from any part of the conveyor belt of assembling cars. So if someone would like to make a suggestion to minutes on the entire process, they would start the process, try it out, and then if it works, they would implement it throughout the organization. It's also known as the Toyota way. I encourage you to, read up and look more into that. It's a great way to look at what you're doing. How I think that this can be applied to you as an entrepreneur is that you can start writing down everything that you're doing. And even though you're executing it, you can take a note, and then as you go in the night, you just look over what you have done for the day and ask yourself, if I had to do all these tasks tomorrow in the exact same way, what will I change to make my process or my methodology better. One of my suggestions is plan ahead. So if you're going on the road and you need to drop a letter at the post office, you make sure you make a note in the morning that you pack that letter in your bag. So by the time you're on the road, you already have the letter ready instead of stopping to go home, to pick up the letter, to go back out. So just think about it that way. The Toyota way, what can I do now to involved in? Now, I'd like to speak a little about exponential organizations or organizations that grow exponentially or much more greater in the short term due to their innovative means. I would like to think about some organizations right now that have sprung up during the pandemic and have been extremely successful. One of those organizations was mentioned earlier, which is Zoom. So Zoom really saw the need for a online platform in which people can connect, and they really sought out how to improve it, giving chat, giving security features, giving backgrounds, giving all these abilities to share screen, share audio alone, having multiple cameras set up, having multiple microphones, all of these complex video conferencing tools that were usually so expensive. They bundled it all together into one package, which is what we have now. And I think that if you look at that, we can use Zoom to explain the different Ds of the exponential organization. So when Zoom, let's say Zoom started out, the first thing they will have to do is to take all their physical records and convert them to digital records. That is where you say it's the first phase where the organization gets digitized. That means all the records are now digital. Deceptive. Deceptive means that
Hello. I think Ryan might have dropped off for a moment for some technical reason. So let's give it a moment and wait for him to rejoin us. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, great. All right, I think he's back. Ryan?
hi Selwyn, sorry.
Okay, good. You got okay.
Disconnected there again.
We were really enjoying it. Go ahead.
Oh my, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, is the slide back up and everything now?
Not as yet. It's now
Yeah.
starting. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay. Sure, no problem. I don't have long more. I try to keep my presentation short. So I look forward more to the question and answer segment. Okay, great. So again, the first step is in becoming a exponential organization, especially if you're a startup or an entrepreneur, you need to digitalize all your records. You don't need to have too many paperwork, all of these things. You may have to keep it for legal purposes, but they're only in duplicate. So that's the first D of exponential. Deceptive is where your growth in sales and generally the growth in your organization is non-traditional. So what that means is that you found your way to hire 5 people, 10 people within the first 3 months or 6 months. It shows that you are employing certain methodologies that are non-traditional, that are bringing you growth. With Zoom, they might not have had to hire too many persons because of the methodology that they use to develop this technology, in the sense that once they create the platform, then all they focus on was as a selling. So what Zoom did, they partnered with schools and these things. So to give subscriptions, for example, the school that I'm a part of got a Zoom membership, and that allowed them to quickly gain traction. So the whole concept of being deceptive means that you've gained traction faster than other organizations, which are generally termed linear organizations that grow on a steady 1+1+1 kind of basis, in the sense that Zoom grew in 1+10 +50 +100 +1,000 in terms of users, and they grew that very quickly. Disruptive organizations are organizations that stand out from the competition and generally dominate the market. They basically gain a lot of market share. So to be classified as a disruptive exponential organization, you would have had to show some kind of dominance in the market. So for example, Zoom, there are other platforms out there like Teams and so, but I think that Zoom really stood out in dominance of the market by us noticing their percentage of market share. Dematerialized. Dematerialized organizations basically mean that they have improved in the production to or the value being given to customers without significantly improving the cost. So if you really think about Zoom, what they do, they employed probably 5 or 10, even 50 programmers. But as the software grew, they didn't also hire the same amount of programmers in a sense. So even though the platform is getting bigger, they probably only added another 5 programmers or less. So in that way, they better use their materials or their resources to improve their production. So dematerialization speaks about the use of your resources to improve your output while not improving your cost. Demonetized. Demonetized, meaning that you are now a recognized organization. For example, globally, it means that you have taken your product and really created an impact in the minds of the customers. If you think about it from the perspective of Zoom, every time you think about video conferencing or holding meetings, they are in your mind. They are the first there. Another example is the use of cell phones. Apple was the one to do it. You would have multiple devices all across. You would have an MP3 player, you would have a PDA, you would have other devices. And then all of a sudden you realize all of this can go into one now that Apple has it. So Apple, in a way, has changed the way that we use our devices, just as Zoom has changed the way that we view video conferencing. So if you think about that as an entrepreneur, when you're creating your product, what can you do that would change the lives or change the way that people live? You must offer that value to them that they're willing to switch from what they're doing to your product or service. And the last one, democratized, meaning that it's now socially and politically available to all. So whether you're of different genders, whether you speak different languages, whether you're from different parts of the world, and I soon believe whether you're going to be on Earth or on the moon or in space, you'll still be able to use that particular product or service. So if we think again about Zoom, they have servers all over the world. Like right now we're using a US server, but there's servers in India, servers close to Guyana, I think in Costa Rica or in Belize. And they also have really allowed multiple language support. Just a year ago, I was hosting a meeting on Zoom, and they were live translators. So they actually had one person speaking English, and they had several translators speaking Dutch, French, and Spanish in the same meeting. So even though you would have watched that one person speak this language, it was actually translated on all the multiple languages in the same live sequence. So if you really want to become a democratized organization, how can you create a product that's available to all? How can you make your product available in multiple languages, multiple different parts of the world? Is it just useful for this country, or is it useful just for the Caribbean, or is it just, as again, is it useful Guyana, the Caribbean, this hemisphere, this earth? Is it also useful in Mars? Really think outside of the box and really see how you can make your product really available to all and not discriminate against anyone in the world, and you would have achieved the final stage in exponential organizational growth. I'd like to speak a little bit now about the phases of business transformation. How can you take a good performing or bad performing business and innovate inside of it? The first phase, as I suggested earlier in the previous slide, is digitalization. This is where you seek to use digital technologies such as paperless documents and different processes along those lines to create digital documents and other digital processes within your organization. Think about it this way. If I need to come to your organization, do I need to call you to book an appointment and then to write it on? Then you will write it in a book. Digitalization means that it's just done completely online, and then you get a reminder in your calendar, for example. Innovation. This talks about, your different capacity and your ability to adapt to change. Innovation, I like to really think about it as a arrow, and where innovation is the apex of the arrow, where it cuts through. In other words, innovation is the cutting edge. So in that way, what are your capabilities? What is it that you're constantly doing that allows you? Do you constantly allow yourself to continuously grow? Do you have that mentality to look out for better solutions, or are you just satisfied with the norm and just everything should become easy again? I'd like to use a quote from my sister. if it doesn't pain, it doesn't change. So in that way, you should always be looking to grow, and you should, if it gets too comfortable, then that's an indication that you're not innovating enough. Sustainability. Sustainability really brings me back to the global sustainability standards here, but in terms of an organizing while not wasting resources. So as you scale and you have 5 people, how can you better use those 5 people to do the job? Or if you only have one office, how can that one office serve multiple countries? So as an entrepreneur, again, think about it that way. If you have one box of screwdriver sets and tools, how can that one set of tools allow you to do all your jobs? If you're a carpenter or something, and you need to do that, you have those tools, but those same tools you're going to use for carpentry, and the tools should be able to be used for the other services that you're providing. So in that way, you're going to create sustainable growth. And in the social access, that remember that no man is an island, and we're all connected in this universe. So think about your impact to the world around you. What is your social responsibility to those around you? Do you assist? Do you really think about your image? What does your brand say? Does it bring confidence? Does it build trust? And what does your reputation say? Because your brand might be who you are. Your reputation is what others think about you. So even though you might hold a certain image of yourself, you should always be collecting feedback and be doing social experiments on social media to see how people respond to you. Especially so I see in Guyana, if you are a political person, I encourage you, post up a video, make it public, and read the comments. Read the comments. They're gonna tell you everything you need to know. Use that as to fulfill this social access. And as a business owner, again, they do the same. Post up a video and then see for the comments. People are really brutally honest. Like, they will tell you if you're renting a house and it has a little hole in the corner, you say, look, the roof is leak. And they will be totally open to you. So if you really want to transform your business, be connected to people in this digital space. Now it brings me to my final slide. I've spoken a lot about organizations and what you can do within an organization to innovate, how to, what it means to be a really exponential organization, the different types of innovation. And it really made you think that, oh, we could only apply this to organization. I have to work somewhere. I have to be an employee. No, 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 no. All of these things are your tools to use in innovation as an entrepreneur or a intrapreneur. Intrapreneur is a person that acts like an entrepreneur within an organization. They bring new products, they go into new markets, they face all the risks that an entrepreneur faces. They are given certain budgets, timelines, just like an entrepreneur. The only thing is that they are shielded in a way because they work within an organization. However, so they still have to face the fire as an entrepreneur, in the sense that their results still speak the same. So some of the skills that you need to be an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur are leadership, adaptability, innovation, and persistence. I don't like to give long slides, and I don't like to be disengaged from those I speak with. So at this time, I'd like to open up for any questions, maybe if anyone has posted anything either in the chat or so. Thank you. So I'm open to questions.
That was awesome, Ryan. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. I actually wished you were going on for another couple of minutes. I was busy taking notes. So thank you very much. It's an indication that you really prepared well. So once again, I'm going to open up the floor to everybody. I sound like a broken record every week saying the same thing. But anyway, any questions? Ryan, hold on, there's something here that I really, can you go over that innovation versus invention, especially where you have the intersections between these three major parts, the novel, solution, and value? Can you hear me properly? Can you hear me, Ryan? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. I hear you clearly. Can you see?
Yeah, I got it.
Yes, because innovation is not just having an invention. Not because you create something means it's of value to others or it's useful. You can just come up with a novel idea and it could just be art. That's okay. There are a lot of artists that can sell single pieces of art or methodology or pieces of art created from their innovation is a product, and it is a novel idea in a sense that it was not existing before.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I really like this slide because this one, it really helped. It really made me reflect, because I see a lot of creativity. I guess you can replace so you can have a creative vision or inspiration, but does it bring value?
Mhm. And that
And
value
does
is
it solve a
always,
problem?
and that value is always to the customer.
Yes, it's always in the minds of the customer.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you for your question.
You're welcome. There must be somebody here with questions.
I see there are 17 persons. So other than us, there's 15 other people. I open your questions.
All right, can I go?
Go ahead, Raul.
What's up, guys? Good night, everyone. Excellent indeed, Ryan. I wasn't able to catch everything, but ironically, that same slide that Selvin just asked about was one that piqued my interest. And the last slide is something that I actually posted, I think it was yesterday, on my WhatsApp, talking about caring for, but you need employees also. A lot of times we hear talk about being an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur. And I believe that too often times we run away from the fact, or it eludes us, that every entrepreneur has to have employees too. And so I read in a book, I can't remember the guy's name right now, about that same concept of the entrepreneur. And so I'm glad you touched on that, and that definitely is going to require some level of innovation and mindset change for business leaders and business owners. Because oftentimes what happens when you have that mindset that I must be an entrepreneur and we need entrepreneurs, it is what translates to the poor way in which many leaders / bosses treat their staff. And that's one of my pet peeves. So we need to speak more on the value of entrepreneurship, and therefore building your staff to a point where they can help you to innovate. Because you don't have all the ideas, you may have the brilliant one to start up your operation, but because you need persons alongside you to treat your customers, then you need to help them to be innovative, empower them, and that's going to help you to grow your business ultimately. So thanks for that. Those two slides in particular, excellent. But we need to build on the last one in particular.
Thanks for that, Raul.
Yes.
I am curious.
Thank you, Raul.
I'm curious.
Sorry, Selman.
There are several people here with their own businesses and with employees, and I'm trying to draw a contrast between the entrepreneurs on this call and how they might or might not encourage entrepreneurship, and contrast that with Dr. Wilcher, who manages an organization, is the head of an organization. And Dr. Wilcher, I'm sorry to be putting you on the spot. I understand your background noise with the children, but I just want to bring out this contrast, and I want to throw this question at John, who has employees, or Eldon, or Evie. Do you encourage entrepreneurship, sorry, and how do you do that? And the same question to you, Dr. Wilcher.
Hi guys, good evening everyone. So Selvin, yes, I think especially in a clinic setting, you know, for us to run as a leader, I depend a lot on the team, you know. So as a matter of fact, I tell them I'm nothing without them. And my job is to empower them. My job is to motivate them. My job is to inspire them for they to take initiative, to think innovative, and to be forward thinking, and so on. So I think especially in organizations where we depend on the team to accomplish certain goals, we definitely have to depend on that entrepreneurship a lot. So for our clinic, that's really the key, and that's how I'm able to be successful because of them. So a lot of my day is involved with just speaking with them, empowering them, making sure that their morale is up so that way they can continue to strive for better, you know, because the more they're involved and the more opinions they give and their ideas, then it helps the organization as a whole. So so it works well for our clinic for intrapreneurship.
Thank you, Dr. Wilcher. Could someone on the other side, one of the entrepreneurs,
Well, there's one saying though, Selwyn, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together.
Thank you for that, Ryan. Yeah, Evie, actually, I just saw Ayana had her hand up. Art, Ayana, you will go after Evie. Go ahead.
I was just answering your question. So for us with trying to embrace intrapreneurship, one of the things that we've done with the restaurants is given our team the ability to make decisions without us having to have like a micromanagement approach, because, you know, in the restaurant industry, things happen fast and they sometimes have to make decisions to whether to rectify or just handle a customer complaint right there and then. So our policy is that we have a few guidelines, but if they had to do something outside the guidelines, that they just give a simple report as to what happened, why it happened, and the action they took. We even had an incident just today, and you know, I think they handled it well. We didn't have to be involved. And I think giving your team that flexibility builds their confidence and doesn't create a heavy dependency on you as an entrepreneur, knowing that you have intrapreneurs that can make decisions, that can handle situations, and that can overall make decisions that will benefit your business and ensure continuity and satisfaction across the board.
Thank you, Evie. Ayana, you wanted to ask? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Ryan, for a very good presentation. My takeaway from it was the slide that you shared about how exponential organizations grow and the 60s that they go through. And I was noting even before, like the key in all of the innovations that you were mentioning is digitization. So I've just been thinking back. I'm in a very paper-based industry and trying to think through of ways that I can make my practice and what I do more digitized and less paper-based. So thank you for that.
Lourdes?
Thank you,
Welcome,
Selwyn.
Ayana.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Ryan, for that presentation. I was listening to it on and off, as I mentioned earlier. I was on my way home from the office, but I listened with interest to the presentation, and I found it very informative, particularly since within the UN context, we are now putting a lot of emphasis on innovation in the way that we deliver our services to the people within the countries that we serve. I work for the United Nations Population Fund, which is the Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency for the United Nations. And we are, I just went, like I mentioned, I just went back to work today. And one of the emails that I saw was an email, an innovation competition of sorts, where the executive director is, has put out a call for innovation among teams. And so And the incentive is a university course for the team, the team that wins, that comes up with the best innovation. So, so I think all around, even in a service-based organization like the one I serve in, we are all pushing for new ideas and new ways of doing business, and because it's so critical at this time. And so I just wanted to commend you for your presentation. And now it's given me an opportunity to actually think about my industry and how I can actually use a more innovative lens to do the work that I have to do. So so thank you very much, and all the best.
Yeah, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah, hey Ryan. Well, firstly,
Hi,
great presentation, man. These types of presentations kind of act as a refresher for techies like myself, because it's actually core to the evolution of what we're trying to push: digital transformation, digitization, you name it. With respect to Selwyn's question about how us as entrepreneurs promote that kind of innovation within our companies, to me, I think the key is really empowering your staff or empowering your employees to kind of know that they have access to the resources, yes, but they kind of, at least for me, I tend to observe them at first, and they tend to distill these kind of entrepreneurial-like characteristics, and they understand that what we're about is not just about me or about the individual, but it's much bigger, and they kind of align with certain things with regard to impact, for example. Then the key is really empowering them. So one of the things I recently did was I gave my GM, I said, we want to get into this particular sector. So I said, you take charge of this. I want you to come up with, draft a document that outlines the issues, outlines the potential solutions, which means she has to do some research. And obviously she's going to make mistakes. She's going to find it a bit overwhelming because this is actually her first time doing this, but that's part of the process. But the key is that she's empowered and she knows she has my support and the support of others in the company to do what she needs to do. And I see a number of other companies doing this, whether it's sending your staff to conferences, for example, or sending them videos, or saying, hey, we got to work on this. What do you think? Getting their opinion, things like that starts getting them to think along the lines of this is not just for me. I'm not just here to, I mean, I'm going to obviously get my check at the end of the day, but I believe in what we're about. And I'm going to put my best foot forward to make that kind of impact. And I think not everyone distills that kind of thinking, but those who do, and some you don't even know if they do or not, you got to kind of give them that exposure and see how they react. But the important thing at the end of the day, it has to come from the top, because they're in no position just by themselves to do anything without the support of those from the top. But I kind of see, one could say back in the day it was not like that, but as given COVID and the way forward, I see people in senior positions doing this gradually, and I think it's a step in the right direction. But like I said, empowering them is really the key thing at the end of the day.
Thank you, John. Ryan, I'm sitting here just thinking.
Thank you, John. Indeed.
Okay. I see Vishnu is on. Vishnu, you.
Innovation is really a continuous process. It's not just a one-off thing. And what I have observed in my 5 years of working in Guyana is, yeah. Okay, sure, yeah, sure, go ahead, Selwyn.
All right. I think we have a delay. Please continue with your point. I will ask Vishnu to speak later. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. What I'm saying is that I spoke about the whole process of innovation. Innovation is not just a single invention. It has to go through many, many, many cycles to make what you're doing better. And that's the thing that I find lacking in Guyana, that people don't have innovative thinking. They don't have design thinking. They're not looking to improve. What they're looking to do is to find something and just shell it out in a sense. Let's get a coconut and just sell coconut, you know? It's not like let's get a coconut, what can we do with the shell? What can we do with the husk, you know? Can we make coconut milk, or can we make coconut milk cheesecake? You know, like that's what innovation is. It's this continuous process, and it's supposed to be uncomfortable, and you're supposed to fail, but you're supposed to also get better. And that is what we need to think about. That's my point. So
Thanks, Ryan. Go ahead, Agri.
Good evening. I came in pretty late, Ryan, to your presentation, but you were making some good points. And what I would like to add um, is that at Google, one of the things that we have had in our culture from day one is that we give the employees, let's say, those who work full time. Of course, I'm not a full time employee there. Um, 1 hour, or sometimes based on the time in the company, a whole day to work on your own projects. One project that you can also you could bring these projects back to the company, or you could work on your own personal business idea or startup or whatever. And this is an intentional step to add to what John was saying, that entrepreneurs can do and business owners can do to enable your current staff to come up with something new, um, and most importantly, to keep the ideas fresh. One other point I like to add to the conversation is the importance for us to always be open to seeing things differently, and always believe that there is always another way, and because there's always another way, there's room for improvement. I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Agri. Doc, are you there? I'm curious to hear.
Yep, I'm here. I'm at the birthday party this evening, but was able to join in a little bit, and I think it's a really good subject. It's my most favorite subject in the world. Is what my whole career is based around this, and I think it's important that you understand these frameworks a lot better. I'm in a fortunate position to be able to experiment a lot in my own organization and in clients' organizations. And it's really powerful when you set aside the resources to have team members really work on the innovative edge of the organization. And a lot of gains come from that. It does take a lot of open-mindedness by the leaders and trust in the process, because there is some investment that comes up front. But I think as more and more entities understand the importance of intrapreneurship, I think the benefit a lot more. And it doesn't only need to be in business. We could have intrapreneurship in in the public sector and politics and social organizations. So I think also understanding that and creating the frameworks really has a benefit, but globally this still only happens in about 5 to 10% of organizations, if so much. Many organizations are still just shelling the coconut, as Ryan mentioned earlier, and not too concerned about everything else that could be improved. And it comes back to comfort zones. No? A lot of people are very comfortable where they are. And that's also the strange thing with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are always looking for the problems to solve and looking for the next problem to solve. Whereas most people have been trained from very young that when they see danger, when they see a fire, when they see a problem, to run in the opposite direction. So these kind of concepts really test our beliefs that we would have held for a long time and allow us to see things differently. So it is a concept that is well worth using. And I would say even for everyone on the call, scheduling that 1 hour per week or 4 hours per week to focus on innovation or focus on a project, it's probably one good way to start developing some more entrepreneurial culture in the organization. A very good subject. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Vishnu. I don't go too far. As you were speaking just now, I thought of you in this unique position, having trained and mentored many entrepreneurs and people in, I guess, in the public sector. I'm curious to know how, knowing that these frameworks, if applied in certain sectors, can really work, can really cause tremendous transformation. What is it like for you seeing that it is possible, but for somehow or the other, the culture in itself does not really allow for that change? And knowing that, what sort of ideas you have to help to shift the culture or create the kind of awareness that is necessary to accept these kinds of frameworks?
Right. So the biggest barrier is that lack of time, because innovation and creativity and problem solving requires either you to have a lot of eureka moments where it just happens, or actually setting aside the time. And as human beings, not just in Guyana, across the world, we're very time poor. So we don't actually schedule the time that is required to do the thinking that is required. And the organizations that are really scaling right now are the ones that have set aside the time and continue to set aside the time to think things through, think about, a multitude of different options, and then start testing the most likely ones that could, deliver the result that's needed. So that's sometimes a frustrating time, that just stopping for a second, stopping for an hour to do the thinking is the thing that people don't do. Just last Friday, every quarter we take a whole day to think through the next quarter and figure out, well, what worked, what didn't work, what innovations need to be put in place. And there are 50 companies now that participated, but that's 50 companies out of 20,000 companies in Guyana. So the fractions and the people of the effort that people are making is still very low. And that's why it's also so easy to scale and to be very successful if you understand these principles. And it also makes me think, what if everybody was doing this? Could have been very chaotic. What if everybody wanted to be an entrepreneur? Could be very chaotic, and the failure rate among entrepreneurs is extremely high. Most human beings can't deal with that level of failure, and maybe it's the failure before the success, or the second or the third or the fourth try. But most people drop out well before they actually start understanding why something works or why something doesn't work. The first sign of resistance, they back off. So that's frustrating for me, but it's also understandable. People want to be able to have security, knowing that not pushing too hard, because being on a constant improvement, a continuous improvement, continuous innovation path it takes a certain kind of individual to want to do that to themselves, right? I think we have 19 members now in our team. 10 of them just want to do their work that they're getting paid to do. 9 of us, want to be constantly challenged and constantly growing, and we appreciate that about each other, because the other 10 members of my team don't. They still can't understand what's wrong with the other 9 of us if we're crazy or something to continuously put ourselves under this kind of pressure. So it still also depends on the type of individual and the appetite for risk, and do they really want to, apply this pressure to themselves. I think you're muted, Selwyn.
Yeah, thank you, Vishnu. Eldon, I see you have your hands up.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Great presentation, Ryan. I think it's a very important topic of discussion, and I'm sitting in awe in terms of the comments that were shared thus far, and with regards to the perspectives on innovation, particularly for entrepreneurs. And I just wanted to add to the discourse by mentioning 2 things in particular. The first of which is from experience, I've noticed that some of the greatest assets to your organization, like some of the most amazing employees, are usually the ones that have to be challenged all of the time. Because I've been told, like, some of the really high performers in our company, they confided in me and they said, if it hadn't been for this type of environment to allow this certain degree of freedom, and he was referring to some of the policies that we have within B75 that's baked into our contracts, where individuals are allowed to innovate freely and move forward with their ideas without the company taking ownership of them per se. But obviously the company would have some sort of stake in that. He said that, if it hadn't been for that type of environment, he would have blown his brains out a long time ago. Those are his words. And I've noticed that trend, like all of the amazing people that you come across, the ones that really help you to grow your company, they're the ones that need that type of innovative type of environment, that entrepreneurship culture. And the really brilliant ones stay with you because they're allowed to create and innovate. So that's the first point, just to share and add to the discussion. The second of which is that we can agree that the only constant is change. And this is an entirely fluid environment. Business is a fluid environment. And innovation is that mechanism that allows us to stay on top of the change rather than be swept under it. And so companies have to embrace that innovative culture to constantly adapt with the fluid landscape and ensure that they capitalize on it. And I guess I have another minor point to make is the fact that over time, with innovation in the mix, and being able to attract really high quality talent through an innovative type culture, you put those together and you get growth in the long term for your organization. So it all works together. And then finally, crisis is indeed the catalyst for innovation. When things are rough, that's when we're really put to the test to apply everything that we have available to us to keep going. So thanks.
Thanks. Thank you, Eldon. Anyone else? Ryan, as you were talking, I was thinking about even within our own organization, Brand News. And it's not like I learned these constructs somewhere, but maybe if I go back to where it began, to give some context as to why I try to lead Brand New the way I do. And the genesis of all this was, hearing some very disparaging remarks about young people from adults, my generation and older, from the diaspora, lambasting young people in Guyana. I'm not going to repeat some of the things that they said, but it really incensed me and led me on a journey to try to figure out how can I help to share, to change the perception and change the narrative. And the only tool I had available was was CWS. And most of you here know what happened. We started bringing people on to share their stories. But now we have the evolution of Brand Youth. What I do is to empower people to come up with their own initiatives, and that is something that I'm hoping that we bake into the culture of Brand Youth as it grows. That initiatives don't always come from the top down, but people are free to come up with their own initiatives and come up with a plan and present it, and then we review it. And I think by doing that, like for instance, and John can attest to that, our awards, I have pretty much passed the baton. There are still some things that I have to do, but for the planning and the organizing and everything, I've taken a step back, because I really believe that the individuals who are tasked with doing this are quite capable of doing it. And in a recent meeting, I said to them that this is new for us, and you will make mistakes. There will be frustrations, and there'll be setbacks, but so what? It's the first time that we are doing this, and so let us make mistakes and learn from them. And I just wanted to make that point to say that when you were talking about entrepreneurship, that resonated with me. So
wow, you said a lot. Thank you for saying that. Everyone, Eldon, Selwyn, Vishnu, and I really love that topic, innovation. And what does it really mean? I was just having it, to me, the starting of innovation. What is crazy? Crazy means non-relevant and threatening to your life. It's a risky behavior. Why would you do crazy? But in order to innovate, in order to break the norm, you have to be crazy. You have to be willing to face crazy, and you must go with it with a strategy, not just to do it irrationally, like someone on the road just walking doing nonsense. No, you're doing it with a strategy, and your strategy is an innovative strategy to look for betterness. You want to break things so that you can fix it and make it stronger. It's the Japanese way as well. When a plate breaks, they put it together and they put gold across where it was broken. So when someone looks at it, they say, wow, what a beautiful plate. How did you break it that way? And that's innovation. Innovation is supposed to bring out the gold in everyone, show how you were broken and how your efforts allowed you to fix yourself and become better. And by becoming better, you became stronger. And by being stronger, it allowed you to be who you are now. And it's a process, and it's supposed to be painful. If you go to the gym, if we have any fitness people here, how do you grow from going to the gym? You have to break your muscles. You have to feel pain. It's a part of the innovation process. And Vishnu touched on that earlier. You have to trust that process, and you have to invest. You have to sacrifice. But you have to stand true, because if you don't follow through on your innovations, you will lose out the results that you're really looking for. So are you willing to work and give it everything that you've got for 5 years to live the other 95 years of your life? Or are you going to just be comfortable with where you are and accept and, always have these regrets in your mind? So when you really think about that, and you also think about that from the perspective of your team, I don't like the word staff. Staff is for Moses and spiritual discussions. Team, we, not I and them, not us. Those are the words that you should be using, because we're all in it together. You might have the innovative entrepreneurial mindset, but you need to engage your team, because we need to grow together. So from the perspective of Brand Youth, let people nominate themselves. Those that will lead will love the fact that it puts them under pressure. I love facing everyone. I love listening to everyone's question. That allows me to grow. That means that I'm better than I was before making this presentation. And I look forward to that. And that to me is worth more than any money or any other result that I'm looking for. I look for growth. And if you can think about that and bring that stability to your team in the sense that you're the one to face the risk, but you're engaging others to come along with you, you know, let's see how I'm thinking this is the idea, you know, for us to do things. But what do you think? You know, delegate some of the responsibility. Do you want to take over just doing the tables? Do the tables. You know, don't try to grab. And that's the mentality in Guyana. You try to take everything from everyone, and then you're the one end up working all the time, and you exhaust yourself. So don't do that. Engage others. Give them opportunity, and that alone might be worth more than what you're paying them. And think about that and really try to implement it in what you do, because now in a time of crisis, we really need to learn to get along with each other, and we really need to learn how to innovate together. Selwyn, I just wanted to say that.
No, thank you, Ryan. I was really enjoying it. Vishnu, I have another question for you about, you know, you encourage entrepreneurship and innovation within your organization. What is one thing that one defining moment for you, or one particular innovation that resonates with you to this day?
I think I've always, I'm originally an engineer, and as an engineer, I'm still an engineer. You always learn about efficiency. So, you know, when you have to put up a building, how do you do it with the least amount of wastage? And I think the innovative part that I took from engineering into business is, how do you get the biggest possible result with the least amount of resources? And what I have also found that I think is pretty innovative, it allows us to compete really, really well, is to be able to leverage a lot of, offer a lot of services by leveraging resources across companies. So, you know, if somebody had to do training and they were to compete with us on training only, they'll have the cost of a training company. Whereas, you know, for us, we're able to leverage a lot of our fixed costs across multiple services. So it's, I think the innovation is basically building out what you can offer that will be able to utilize the resources you have. So it's a little bit of related diversification, really. But doing it in a practical way, so you can make companies profitable really fast that way. And I think, you know, solving the problems that people complain about. You know, for years people have complained about standards and not being able to become ISO certified in Guyana, and for decades. And when we went about solving that problem, it was solved in less than 3 months. With the solution that, you know, I think now we have nearly 20-something companies already ISO certified in a year plus. So it was such a big problem for such a long time that nobody solved. But looking at the resources that you have available and the problem that exists, how do you marry them and create a solution in a profitable way as well? Because, you know, if you can't pay the bills, if you can't pay the staff, if you can't pay everything that's needed, then it's not going to last that long. You know, so I think that's something that I'm proud of, having been able to use innovation to solve real life problems, right? The things that really are keeping companies back and keeping people back. Yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Thank you, Vishnu. Raul, I consider you a reinventor of self in so many ways. Can you share with us, if you don't mind, one of the innovations that you've used that have helped to transform the way you do business?
Very interesting question there. It caught me off guard. Had my mind in customer service and this whole idea of intrapreneurship. I wouldn't pride myself in being a significant innovator. I like to just tweak things that exist. Yes, I have a lot of ideas in my head, but I cannot point to any one thing except for adjusting my mind to utilizing the online space. I did only a few weeks ago. I did a couple of things online, but not for myself. And when I suddenly started my own thing, it just picked up. And I thought, why were you waiting to start so long? I should have done it before. But sometimes that spirit that's within you is unleashed. Someone mentioned when there's a crisis, then all of a sudden that innovative part comes up. So for me, it's just about adjusting and bringing that inner man or inner person out to utilize what's available and make it work for you. So as Ryan said, it's not an invention. It's just using the tools there for better results. So that's the only thing I can think about. But if I can just jump on something else, as I was thinking, but the references to the intrapreneur, and if I can just share, I think it's a quote from Richard Branson. He said, it's better to ask permission, better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission. And a lot of the leaders that we have here, thank goodness, are pretty good at interacting with their team members. And so they are leading the spirit of true innovation and building entrepreneurs under themselves. The challenge that we have is, how do we get this mindset into the public sector? You asked a question about that, and I know Vishnu and others have been doing a really good job in pushing even into the public sector. But I believe that those of us in the private sector who understand this should keep pushing, because the fact is not all of our staff are going to stay with us. And so at least when they go off to start their own venture, they go off with what they would have learned from us, from you, and will help to build entrepreneurs under themselves too. So that's just one thing I was thinking beyond what I might have done. Another comment is, in hiring, try to hire and train with the concept of the entrepreneur in mind. Because I think it was John who was making mention that you give your general manager some responsibilities, but a lot of times we find that we are going back to what I call reverse delegate. You give them a responsibility, but then you still have to go back and help them with it. And primarily it might be because they weren't necessarily equipped to do it. And so when we do these sessions that helps us to allow them to think and come to us with the idea, then we know in what direction to push them, because it is already working in their mind. Or if we feed them our vision and we hear their response, then we can say, okay, good, run with that. So just a little bit, a lot has been in my head, man. I really enjoyed this topic.
I just wanted to piggyback on that for a second, Selwyn. I think it brings out a really key point that if we want our team to be with us for the long term, we do need to offer them ownership. And I think that one of the things that has made us very successful is that in many of our companies, team members own various percentages, in some cases nearly 30% of the company. Because if we expect them to behave like owners, there's only one way to make that a reality. And then it's up to them. If they want to leave, if they want to continue, they can keep their ownership or they can sell their ownership, but they then really truly are connected to the company, or else we are only leaving them the option of going and getting started on their own. And the sad reality about that is that most of the time that fails because of the resources that are required to really run an organization very effectively. So we also need to be very open into having our team members become owners of the companies.
Thank you, Vishnu. I almost wanted to ask you to take us out, but I'll call on Tula. We haven't heard from Tula. Are you there? Can you close us off for the evening? All right. I guess Tool is not there. Well, Ryan, thank you for such an excellent presentation. Gosh, I wish you had not taken me so literally and gone an extra 5 or 10 minutes, but what you did is give us the space to have this rigorous discussion. And thank you so very much, and good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Selwyn. Thank you,
Thank you so much
Ryan.
for the opportunity.
Thanks again, Ryan. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night.
Good night.